My goal is to take this hole saw and cut a button blank out of this shell. So we'll see how that goes. And I basically just have a piece of scrap foam kind of as a backer, so when I go through I don't fracture the back side of this shell as I cut the hole. And plastic container kind of to keep everything cool and also to keep the dust down when I cut the shell. After about 5 seconds of drilling there, your standardized wood cutting teeth on these hole saws. You can get a pretty wide selection. This is probably about a $25–$30 pack of hole saws, but obviously as a practical matter I think I used about the biggest hole saw I could on that particular shell. And then we have, basically these are smaller hole saws. Instead of standard wood cutting teeth, these have carbide, tungsten carbide grit brace to the side of the barrel. So these basically grind their way in through the shell, or will. So, and I have quite a selection of those, so I can make some pretty small buttons if I wanted to. And then on the same principle, but a much bigger hole saw, we have these, which again, no real practical use on the side of the shells I'm using. Probably really no practical use for anything as far as button making. So, but same idea. So there's my button blank that came out of the hole. So, a super clean hole with the abrasive type hole saw. So this is kind of a fairly attractive button here, or we'll make one. I'll put a couple, just drill a couple small holes for a thread. But so there we go. So I'll go ahead and do some finishing work. This is basically a sanding drum, a small one, but it has a tungsten carbide as the abrasive. And so this button blank I have, I'll just go ahead and smooth up the sides and cut down the back side so it's pretty much same thickness all the way through. So go ahead and do that. So I just happen to have this plastic button that's identical to the button blank I just cut. So I'm going to use that for a drilling template. I'm going to basically just spin some electrical tape around the circumference. And then I'm going to use the spacing here of the 4 holes to cut my holes through the button blank. So that's the idea. And so I'll just grab some tape off this roll here. And spin it around. So there it is. And I'll just drill that out on the drill press. So the moment of truth to see if my hopefully my center didn't bust completely out, and I got 4 holes instead of one big gnarly hole. That looks like it worked pretty good. Okay, so clean it out here a little bit. Looks like a button to me. So let's use my plastic one for a template there. So there's my final button. This is a nice little field guide. I got this at the St. Paul campus bookstore for the University of Minnesota. It was like $10, but essentially it has all the mussels that are in Minnesota. And again, I'd only use this to identify the mussels. I'm sure it's against the law for most of these to even be picked up, so you'll just have to use it for a guide to identify ones that are washed up on the beach, and I would not pick them up. And the best area in Minnesota for just straight out diversity is along the St. Croix, the National River area. So, but again, all that stuff is illegal to handle, and there are some that are endangered and some that are expatriated from the state. But so the idea would be stay away from even getting near these endangered animals, even if they're just already dead shells. I just can't imagine that would get you in any kind of good trouble. So, but there's threatened, and then there's endangered, expatriated, status unknown. Well, there's another endangered, but they're very cool little animals, and so they actually are very interesting to watch, especially with stop time photography. So